Consideration of questions and answers. Let's begin. 1. Why can we learn from older ones? All of us need guidance to make important life decisions. Elders and other mature Christians can provide much of that guidance. If they are older than us, we should not dismiss their advice as outdated. Jehovah wants us to learn from older ones because they have had more time to gain experience, understanding, and wisdom. 2. What will this article discuss? In Bible times, Jehovah used faithful older ones to encourage and guide his people. Examples include Moses, David, and the Apostle John, who gave wise advice as they neared the end of their lives. Each emphasized the value of obedience to God, and Jehovah preserved their words for us today. Whether young or old, we can benefit by reviewing their counsel. This article will consider the parting words of these three men and the lessons we can draw from them. 3. In what capacities did Moses serve? Moses was wholly devoted to Jehovah. He served as a prophet, a judge, a commander, and a historian. Moses had vast experience in life. He led the nation of Israel out of slavery in Egypt and personally witnessed many of Jehovah's miracles. 4. Whom did Moses encourage, and why? Shortly before he died at the age of 120, Moses gathered all the Israelites together. He reminded them of the things they had seen and experienced. Some of his listeners, in their youth, had witnessed Jehovah's signs and miracles. They saw Jehovah's judgments against Egypt and walked through the parted waters of the Red Sea. They experienced Jehovah's protection and care in the wilderness. Now, as the nation prepared to enter the Promised Land, Moses used this last opportunity to encourage them. 5. Moses' parting words found at Deuteronomy 30:19-20 gave what assurance to the Israelites? Moses told the Israelites they had a wonderful future with Jehovah's blessing. They could live for a long time in the beautiful, fruitful land that he had promised them. Moses described it as having great and fine cities they did not build, houses full of good things they did not work for, and vineyards and olive trees they did not plant. 6. Why did God allow other nations to conquer Israel? Moses warned the Israelites to obey Jehovah's commandments to remain in their bountiful land. He urged them to choose life by listening to Jehovah and staying close to him. However, the Israelites rejected Jehovah, leading him to allow the Assyrians and Babylonians to conquer them and take them into exile. 7. What can we learn from the words of Moses? Obedience leads to life. Like the Israelites on the threshold of the Promised Land, we are on the verge of entering God's promised new world. There the earth will be transformed into a paradise. The devil and his demons will be gone. False religion and oppressive governments will no longer exist. Paradise will be a place of unity, peace, and obedience to Jehovah's righteous laws. If we remain obedient, we can live in paradise on earth for all eternity. 8. How did the promise of everlasting life help one long-time missionary? If we keep God's promise of everlasting life closely in mind, we will want to stick to Him no matter what trials we may face. That promise can also empower us to fight personal weaknesses. One long-time missionary in Africa, who struggled with a persistent fleshly weakness, said, "Realizing that my prospect of living forever was threatened made me all the more determined to fight the problem and to supplicate Jehovah fervently. With His help, I was then able to overcome it." This example shows how focusing on Jehovah's promise can provide strength and determination to face challenges and maintain our loyalty to Him. 9. What trials did David experience in his life? David was a great king. He was also a musician, a poet, a warrior, and a prophet. He experienced many trials. For some years he lived as a fugitive, fleeing from jealous King Saul. After becoming king, David again had to run for his life when his son Absalom tried to steal his throne. Despite David's difficulties and personal failings, he proved loyal to God to the end of his life. Jehovah described him as a man agreeable to his heart. David's counsel is worth listening to. 10. Why did David give counsel to his son and successor Solomon? Consider, for example, the counsel that David gave to his son and successor Solomon. The young man had been chosen by Jehovah to continue to promote pure worship and to build a temple to honor God. Solomon would face difficulties. What would David say to him? Let us see. 11. According to 1 Kings 2:2-3, what assurance did David give Solomon, and how did these words prove true? What did David say? David told his son that if he obeyed Jehovah, he would succeed in life. And for many years, Solomon enjoyed considerable success. He built the magnificent temple and wrote and contributed to several books of the Bible. He became famous for his wisdom and wealth. But as David explained, Solomon would be successful only as long as he obeyed Jehovah God. Sadly, later in life Solomon turned to other gods. Jehovah withdrew his favor, and Solomon lost the wisdom to govern in righteousness and justice. 12. What can we learn from the words of David? Obedience leads to success. Jehovah has not promised us the riches or glory of Solomon. But if we obey him, he will give us wisdom to make sound decisions. His principles guide us in practical matters like employment, education, entertainment, and money. Applying godly wisdom protects us from lasting harm. We cultivate strong friendships and find guidance for a happy family life. 13. How did Carmen find the way to success in life? Carmen, from Mozambique, initially believed higher education was the key to success. She enrolled in a university to study architecture and loved learning. However, her schedule from 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. left little time for spiritual activities. She realized she was trying to serve two masters. After praying, researching publications, and seeking counsel from mature brothers and her mother, she decided to leave university to serve Jehovah full-time. She has no regrets about the choices that brought her closer to Jehovah. 14. What was the basic message of both Moses and David? Moses and David deeply loved Jehovah and valued obedience to him. In their final words, they encouraged others to remain faithful to Jehovah. They warned that abandoning Jehovah would result in losing his favor and blessings. This advice is still valuable today. Centuries later, another servant of Jehovah highlighted the importance of faithfulness to God. 15. What did the Apostle John experience during his life? John was a beloved apostle of Jesus Christ. He accompanied Jesus throughout his ministry, witnessed his miracles, and remained loyal during difficult times. John saw Jesus being executed and later witnessed his resurrection. He also observed the spread of Christianity, from a small group of faithful ones to the fulfillment of the good news being preached in all creation under heaven. 16. Who have benefited from John's letters? Near the end of his long life, John had the privilege of contributing to God's inspired word. He recorded the awe-inspiring revelation by Jesus Christ. John also wrote the Gospel bearing his name and 3 inspired letters. He addressed his 3rd letter to a faithful Christian named Gaius, whom he viewed as a beloved spiritual child. By then, there were likely many whom John considered his spiritual children. John's writings continue to encourage all of Jesus' followers down to our day. 17. According to 3 John 4, what brings great joy? John wrote of the joy that obedience to God brings. By the time John wrote his 3rd letter, some were spreading false teachings and causing divisions. Yet others continued, walking in the truth, obeying Jehovah, and walking according to his commandments. These faithful Christians brought great joy to John and to Jehovah himself. 18. What can we learn from the words of John? Faithfulness leads to joy. We experience joy knowing that we make Jehovah happy. He rejoices when we reject worldly temptations and accept the truth. Heavenly beings also rejoice. Additionally, we find joy in seeing one another remain faithful, even in the face of trials and temptations. When this system passes away, we will take satisfaction in knowing we demonstrated loyalty to Jehovah in a world dominated by Satan. 19. What did a sister named Rachel say about teaching the truth to others? We feel exceptional joy when we share the truth with others. Rachel, who lives in the Dominican Republic, describes teaching about Jehovah as a privilege beyond words. She reflects on her spiritual children and says, "It's hard to describe the joy I feel when I watch those I teach grow to love Jehovah, make him their anchor, and adjust their lives in order to make him happy. That feeling more than makes up for any effort and sacrifice I might have made to teach them." 20. What do we have in common with Moses, David, and John? Moses, David, and John lived in time periods and circumstances that were different from ours, but we have much in common with them. They served the true God, and so do we. Like them, we pray to Jehovah, rely on him, and look to him for guidance. And like those men of old, we are confident that Jehovah richly blesses those who obey him. 21. What blessings are in store for those who heed the counsel of such faithful older ones as Moses, David, and John? Let us, therefore, heed the parting words of those older men by obeying Jehovah's commandments. Then we will have true success in all that we do. We will have life and endure a long time, yes, forever. And we will have the joy of pleasing our loving Heavenly Father, who fulfills all his promises in ways far beyond anything we can anticipate or even imagine. Review questions. What can we learn from the parting words of Moses? From the parting words of David, we learn that obedience leads to life. Like the Israelites on the threshold of the Promised Land, we too stand on the verge of entering God's promised new world. In this paradise, the earth will be transformed, as foretold in Isaiah 35:1 and Luke 23:43. The devil and his demons will be removed forever, as described in Revelation 22:3. False religion will no longer mislead people, fulfilling Revelation 17:16. Human governments that oppress will cease to exist, as stated in Revelation 19:19-20. Paradise will be free of rebels. Instead, all people will obey Jehovah's righteous laws, bringing unity and peace. Under such conditions, love and trust will flourish among all. Isaiah 11:9 beautifully highlights this harmonious future. Even more remarkable, if we obey Jehovah, we can live on a paradise earth not just for hundreds of years, but for all eternity. What can we learn from the parting words of David? Obedience leads to success. While Jehovah does not promise riches, he grants wisdom to make sound decisions. His principles guide practical matters and protect us from harm. They help us build strong friendships and enjoy a happy family life. What can we learn from the parting words of John? As 1 John 5:3 reminds us, obeying Jehovah's commandments is not burdensome, but brings true happiness. Additionally, as Luke 15:10 points out, others in heaven also share in this joy. We too can find great joy in seeing our brothers and sisters remain faithful, even amid trials and temptations, as highlighted in 2 Thessalonians 1:4. Finally, when this system ends, we will feel deep satisfaction knowing that we demonstrated our loyalty to Jehovah, despite living in a world controlled by Satan.